Victory Boy! Show me a move. Good news, everyone. Don't you little giddy when you see onions have
Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Radio Mike, and this is the inside of my mind. And the inside of my mind is saying it's going to be a long 6 weeks ahead. And the reason for that is because Melbourne, Australia, has just gone in, well, not just, probably a week now, not a week, hang on. I'm recording this on Monday, which is an early record. We've just gone in to stage 4 quarantine. You can't go out. You can't do anything. You can't go to the shops. Well, you can, but only once a day. You have to wear a mask. There's other stuff as well. Something to do with exercise only being an hour. There's a curfew. 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. You can't be out of your house. And, well, that sucks. By the way, as I said at the top, I'm Radio Mike, the guy from this podcast. Obviously having a great time in quarantine right now. I am, just as I always say, I am Radio Mike, a radio and podcast producer, mainly podcasts at the moment, no radio at the moment. Radio Mike is doing no radio at the moment, no radio, Radio Mike, hashtag no radio, Radio Mike. From Melbourne, I live by myself. I'm trying to make my way through the rough and tumble of living solo. Living on the solo, and it is very bad in the current circumstances. I'm getting very bored. And I'm getting very unmotivated. Like, this week, there have been times where I'm like, oh, just sit down and, like, watch a movie. Or, like, go and sit down and just, like, read your book. Or, like, listen to a podcast. And I'm just, like, I just get overwhelmed by, like, all the choices we have now. Like, I look at, like, Netflix and I'm like, oh, my God, how could I even think about starting one TV series knowing I might not finish it? And, like, I'm just paralyzed with choice. I end up just doing nothing. Sometimes going on TikTok, which is the biggest waste of time. Of course, I'm recording this on a Monday. This comes out on a Thursday. TikTok may have been banned by now. The world has gone mad. As Professor Slughorn says at the start of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, these are mad times we're living in. Mad. And that was a great pop culture reference. All the Harry Potter fans of this podcast loved that reference. And all the non-Harry Potter fans of this podcast, well, you've got some catching up to do, don't you?
These are mad times we live in, mad!
But, yeah, I've just been really bored, to be honest. And my weekends are like, I finish a long week of work and I get to the weekend and I'm like, oh, I'm really excited. The weekend, it's going to be awesome. And then I get to it and I'm like, oh, there's actually nothing really to do when you're not allowed to do anything and you can't, and you have no work to do. And then, yeah. Anyway, I hope you're going okay. I'm Radio Mike, Australia's most lovable nerd. And, well, the first thing you do when you're listening to this podcast every week is do a 360 on the spot. Spin around, or just do one of these. Just do one of these. Sorry, I realize I'm filming I film parts of the podcast. Look around. Yeah, behind your shoulder. Behind the other shoulder. Cool. Am I there? If I happen to be in your proximity, which, to be honest, is very unlikely at the current times because there is pretty much no point at which I'm leaving this apartment. But if I do happen to be in your vicinity, you've won the podcast. Congratulations, you've won. The podcast is over. You won it. Well done. And obviously, winning the podcast is becoming a highly unlikely thing in isolation. No one has yet won the podcast. There is a prize for winning the podcast, which I will only reveal when someone does win the podcast. So do your 360 now if you happen to be in my vicinity, because I guess you could be listening to this 10 years from now and you see me on a tram or a hover tram, because I assume in 10 years we have hover trams. See me on the hover tram, come up to me and just go, hey, Mike, listening to your podcast from 10 years ago, I think I've won it. Then you put your headphones in my ears. All right, you probably don't have headphones then. There's probably like, a chip in your brain that beams sound into your brain. This is 10 years from now. Who knows what's going to happen? Look what's happening now. No one would have predicted this in 2010. Dear God, no. just prove to me that you're up to this bit of the podcast and you've won the podcast. So far, no one has done so, but I'm looking forward to the day that someone does. July was a really good month for the podcast, and I always do these like monthly updates on the downloads. July was another really high month, and I guess I just wanted to kick off the show today just to say, like, you know, all work is uncertain at the moment. The best way for you to support my work and for you to support this show is 1, leave a review of the show on iTunes, a 5-star review, preferably 5 stars. You can leave a 4-star review. We do accept those here at Radio Mike Productions. 3 stars or less, get out of here. Get fucked. Give it to another podcast. Give it to the other podcasts you listen to. Do not give this podcast anything under 3 stars. We do not accept reviews under 3 stars. No, so we don't even accept 3-star reviews. 4 or 5 only. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. The other way you can support the show is to tell your friends. Just say to your friends, hey, if you want a good, chill comedy podcast that you can just chill out to, listen to while you're going for a walk or cleaning up the house and doing chores or playing games or whatever it is that you like to do, this is a really fun podcast that gets people involved. That's a really good way to help get new people to discover the podcast. So yeah, if you could do that, that'd be 100% amazing. I wanted to start off today by saying thank you so much to all of the people who are sending in Google reviews for Dan Murphy's Q. If you're new to the podcast, you might not get why we're doing this. Welcome if you're new. If you're old to the podcast, you will, but I'm just going to quickly explain it. When I was at university, I had a part-time retail job at Dan Murphy's liquor store in Kew. I was one of their star employees. I think my manager would agree. And one of the things that baffled myself and several other young staff at the store, mainly the younger staff who spent a lot of their time just kind of mucking around when they should have been working, behind the first register in the store, and if you ever go to Dan Murphy's in Kew, which is possible for people who live in Melbourne, you will see this, there is a rectangular base box on the wall, and written on this rectangular box are the words with no other context: don't block the MDF. Don't block the MDF. And when I was working at Dan Murphy's, all of us just didn't know what that meant. 1, was that the MDF? Is the rectangular base thing the MDF? 2, what happens if you do block the MDF? 3, why is it so important that the MDF remains unblocked? But we didn't bother asking those questions. We just ensured the entire time we were working there that that MDF was never blocked. And I have asked people to submit reviews to Google Reviews, 5-star reviews for Dan Murphy's Q, just explaining that they have an incredible track record for not blocking the MDF. And thanks to all the people who have done that so far. Radio Alex S. He says, fantastic establishment, impeccable track record of the MDF not being blocked. Also, Michael is a very kind young man. Some of your older staff could learn a lot from him. Great. Radio Billy Freeman, he says, amazing customer service. I have not once seen them block the MDF. And Radio Mark Nugent says, the only place to get the best variety of drinks and the most unblocked MDF, worth the 19-hour drive. So, if you, like me and many of the listeners, are impressed by Dan Murphy's Q's track record of not blocking the MDF, even if you don't know what the MDF, you must acknowledge that this is an impressive feat by them. Please leave a 5-star review for Dan Murphy's Q. It can't hurt them. It only helps them to have more 5-star reviews. Leave it on Google Reviews. Let's get their reputation up for being the store that doesn't block the MDF. Had a bit of correspondence this week for the show as well from Radio Jane Lamb. Welcome to the radio family, Radio Jane Lamb. And the last message, this was on Instagram. You can contact the show in many ways, by the way. Instagram, email, radiomikepod@gmail.com. The phone number, 1-800-438-353. So many different ways. The last message she sent was, hey, Radio Mike, just had to tell you that Ghost in My Room is one of the best songs I've ever listened to. Hope you do more music in the future. And Ghost in My Room was not a single, it was just a song, a track on my album with Jack Post, Release the Sounds. I'll put a bit of it here.
Thinking about what I'll do and what It can't be much fun being the ghost in my room.
Go and listen to Release the Sounds if you're new to the podcast. That's my band. Great fun doing that. We're really hoping to do another album eventually once this COVID stuff is over, but that could be a while away. But she messaged me this week just saying 3 times John. Now, if you're new to the show, you won't get that. Welcome again. Here's another piece of the 20th Century Boy lore. The phenomenon is something we explore quite regularly on this show, and the phenomenon is my theory, my 3-step theory that everybody has an uncle called John. That's step 1 in the phenomenon. Everybody has an uncle called John. If you don't have an uncle called John, then it is highly likely that your grandfather's name is John. And if your uncle is not John and your grandfather is not John, then it is almost certain that either you or your dad are called John. The phenomenon has been proven many times on this show to many listeners, and Radio Jane Lamb just adds one to the set. I said a John trifecta because that's so rare. She said, yeah, they weren't exactly adventurous with names, plus an extra John if middle names count, which they do, as well as any language variation of John. Gian, Giovanni, Juan. I think Yona. I actually saw a thing on Reddit this week that was like all the language variations of John, and there's a lot of them. Yes, they count. So not only does she get the John trifecta with the middle name, she actually gets the John quadfecta. So congratulations to Jane Lamb on being a very strong contributor to the phenomenon. Always write in your phenomenons. Always write those in. We want to know. We want to make the phenomenon as science-proof as possible. And the more numbers we have, the more scientific the stats are. The data is, I should say. But yeah, I did talk a little bit about it at the top, and I have been I'm just annoyed because like the mental energy of going through another 6 weeks of isolation when a lot of us here in Melbourne, I think, felt like we were coming to the end of it is pretty shit. I guess I'm grateful that I haven't been too affected work-wise. In fact, I'm very grateful and quite lucky for that because I know a lot of people who have been. But yeah, I guess, as I said, I get to the weekends and I just get bored and I feel restless and I feel like I just want to go out and hang out with someone. I just want to hang out with someone here and play some games or something like that. Thankfully, most weekends I'm playing online games with my cousin Paul, who featured on the show last week. And I believe we are trying to organise some kind of Radio Family, the collective group of listeners of this show, movie night, or some kind of interactive thing. I'm going to try and stream some Super Smash Bros. This week on YouTube and play and do like a Q&A while doing that. So I hope people would want to do that. But yeah, it's feeling pretty flat. And knowing that there are people out there like Karen from Bunnings who like refuse to wear masks and just refuse to like adhere to the restrictions. And I feel like so many people are doing that. And so many people have been doing that, like thinking, oh, the restrictions don't really apply to me, so I can just do whatever I want. No one's going to know. And I guess it's interesting because it's really easy to have that thought of like, I'm a single person. I'm one person. Why does it matter if I break the rules as long as everyone else is following them? But then you realize the chain reaction of the fact that if everyone is doing that and thinking that way, then no progress is made. And I feel like that's probably what happened with Melbourne. Everyone was just like, oh, we can, I'm just one person. I don't have an effect. But yeah, the chain reaction of that is really bad, which is shit. And I posted a tweet today, which I thought was going to be my next big tweet, but it didn't really take off. And it was a picture of Seymour Butts, the dog from Futurama. And if anyone has watched Futurama, you will know the episode with the dog. And it's a very sad story in which, if you don't know Futurama, Fry, the main character of Futurama, is from 1999. He ends up accidentally time traveling to the year 3000 and he can't go back. And in this episode, you find out he had a pet dog, and on the last day before he time traveled, he said to the dog, hey, just wait for me out front of this building. I'll come back for you soon. Then he accidentally time travels, and then you find out in this episode the dog waited for him for 12 years till 2012 until it died, and it never left the building. And I believe it is based on a somewhat true story, a Japanese story of a dog who waited at the train station for its owner. And there is a statue at Shinjuku Station in Japan that I've been to that is just a statue of this dog, and it's supposed to be, this, I can't remember the name of it, and I should, because it's really cool. And I believe that story is loosely based on that Japanese sort of folklore tale of this dog that waited for its owner. Anyway, I posted this tweet of this picture from Futurama, and I said, this is me waiting for lockdown to end. And it's just the dog waiting there indefinitely, and Fry never comes back for him. And I kind of wonder, again, when this all went down, which was in probably March, and I don't even remember what normal was like. But when this all went down, everyone was like, by July, this will all be done. But it's August now, and it's worse than it ever was. So it's really, really concerning, I suppose. But I don't know. I'm happy to stay here, stay inside for the next 6 weeks for the greater good, and I can't wait to get out there once it's done. Okay, so there's my little opening monologue for this week, and I hope you enjoyed that spiel, but let's do something a bit more fun, and I don't know, let's do one of these. Name your number! It is Name Your Number. I recently posed a theory to the listeners on the show that there is an infinite amount of numbers in the universe that have never been said out loud by any other human being in the history of the world. I will do one right now. 7 quadrillion, 1 trillion, 2 billion, 963,241,065. I have now made history. I am a history maker because I named that number. So I'm giving everyone on the show the chance to make history, claim your number, write into the show, and made that number. Radio Dave Lee, welcome to the radio family, Radio Dave Lee. He's done just that. He's left a voicemail at 1-800-438-353, the official phone number of this podcast. And, it's actually quite exciting because if you don't know, Radio Dave Lee is actually a little bit of a YouTube celeb and a good mate of mine, although we've never met, but we interact a lot over social media. Dave Lee is a YouTuber who does, he's really good at doing, pop culture analysis videos, particularly on old school cartoons, like the Looney Tunes and those kind of shows. He does some really interesting videos, especially if you have ever wondered, the history of, any of the Looney Tunes characters. He does really big videos about exploring their evolution over time. But this week, he must be listening to my podcast, or maybe he just saw the video. He's sent in a number that he would like to claim. Radio Dave Lee, make history for us, mate.
Radio Mike, it's your good mate here. Radio Dave Lee Down Under. How's it going, mate? I just thought I'd my own number here because I just have to make history. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to make history right here today on your wonderful podcast. It's just a pleasure to be able to call in. Really fantastic. So my number, Radio Mike. I'm just a little bit nervous calling in, to be honest. I'm on the Radio Mike show. It's great. Anyway. So my number is going to be 185 billion trillion, 185 billion, 185 million, 180,000, 18.18. I hope that's okay. Thanks for taking my call, Radio Mike. Radio Dave Lee Down Under out. Check me out on YouTube, Dave Lee Down Under, YouTube / just check me out, guys.
There you have it. That is another history maker added to the history books of this show. Radio Dave Lee, you have made history with your number. definitely go check him out on YouTube. And please, always feel free to name your number, send it into the show so you can make history as well, because I think that it is very important that every listener of this podcast gets the opportunity to be a history maker. There was a little bit of controversy and, dare I say it, mockery of me on social media this week. Because if you don't follow me on Instagram, hit me up, radio.mike, quality content there. I posted an Instagram story that may have been one of the most embarrassing things that I have ever done. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it turns out I don't know how to open soap. And please, if you're in the same boat as me here, step in and defend me. Because I posted a Instagram story of me not knowing how to open soap, as in the hand soap with the little the little like handle thing that you push down and it soap dispenser. It dispenses the soap. Like you'd have it in a home bathroom. And when you buy them from the supermarket, they're not push downable. You can't push them down, right? Like, and you can't dispense the soap. Now, I just think this was one of the things that I missed. Like, I feel like everyone has one of these, and maybe you can write them in if you've got one. Just obvious things that you never learned how to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, obvious things you never figured out or never learned, and it's caught you out in adulthood. This is the best example for me. I had no idea how to do it. And I remember when I lived at home with mum and dad, constantly with mum, she would have soap, like freshly bought soap, and she'd put it in the bathroom, still with the unpush-downable lid. And often I'd just see it and be like, well, I have no idea how to dispense this soap. I thought it was like a special way of dispensing it, but I just didn't know. So I just wouldn't use soap when I wash my hands. It was just like, how? I don't know how to do it. And I didn't want to ask to do it because I knew I'd look like an idiot, which I did when I asked that exact question on Instagram. And thank you to the probably 100 people who treated me a little bit like an idiot and made me feel very stupid when they told me that the way to do it is literally just to spin the lid counterclockwise until it goes out. Radio Georgina Lamming is one of those. She just did a laugh react. She literally just laugh reacted to it. And I say, I'm really embarrassed. She said, I'm glad you posted an update, because I did update after I knew. She said, I thought you were joking. And I said, nah, just an idiot. She said, too funny. Radio Connie said, twist it, I think. So Radio Connie, it makes me think that you didn't particularly know how to do it either. It makes me think that you had an idea about it, but you weren't 100% sure. So that's kind of good for me. Radio Nathan Little, he says, I'm sure you've got a response, but I don't know if you're serious. You just twist the top. Radio Gemma Watts, she said, it's been 5 hours since this story. Please tell me someone has helped you with this. Someone had. Radio Groffen, welcome to the radio family. Radio Groffen said, twist the top a little bit. If that doesn't work, twist the lid a lot. He didn't make me feel like too much of an idiot, which is good. So thank you for that. But lots and lots of people just making fun of me for that, which I was being vulnerable. I was opening up about one of my flaws and people just lashed into me. I didn't like it. So I would love for you to unashamedly write in any of your things that you just never learnt. Because now I will never forget how to open soap. I will absolutely never forget it. But at the time, I had no idea, and I own that. So write yours in. I would love to know. I'll read them on the show next week. Something really weird has been going on with the phone number for the show. And I have been ignoring it at first, but now that it's persisting, I've decided to acknowledge it. Now, I know one listener of the podcast is smiling knowingly to themselves. I don't know who it is. And we may be in for another Radio Nacho Cheese style thing here, but this is weirder. I've had 3 calls from a phone number. 3 calls from a certain phone number. And, I won't play all 3 of the messages because most of them are the same. But I'll put one of them here. This is a voice message I've been getting from someone, I don't know who. And here's what it says.
Hello there, Radio Mike. This is Radio Father again. Just making sure you're doing well. Radio Father hopes that Radio Mike is doing well, and he has died, and that he's surviving the COVID. Best wishes. Sincerely, Radio Father. Father's coming.
Okay, so every time I hear one of these, it really creeps me out. Whoever this is, Radio Father, you are not welcome in the radio family right now. And that is because you are really scaring me. Ending a message with Father is coming is very foreboding, and I'm very frightened. Radio Father, I don't know what you want. I really do not know what you want. But I guess now that I've acknowledged you on the show, you wrote in twice, you messaged twice. I didn't acknowledge it because I didn't know what you were trying to do. 3 times? Okay, you've got my attention. That's all you have to do, write in 3 times, you'll get my attention. I would like to know what you want, Radio Father, what your intentions are. Well, actually, you're not even known as Radio Father because you're not in the radio family. So you can call yourself Radio Father, but to me and the rest of the listeners, you are only known as Questionable Father. That's all we will know you as. So, yeah, send a voicemail this week after hearing this and let me know what it is that you want. Because, yeah, you're starting to frighten me. And we'd love to have you in the RF, the radio family. But if you keep leaving creepy messages, I'm not sure we can have you because we don't want you scaring other members of the team. Anyway, Radio Father, I'll leave it up to you. And we'll see where this ends up. All right, we didn't do this one last week, but we are going to bring back one of my favorite segments of the show. A segment that you can get involved in. This is a game segment. You submit your answer, and the segment is called this.
Lost in translation. Lost in translation.
That's right, it is Lost in Translation. How does this game work, I hear you asking? I'm about to tell you. Chill out. Jesus Christ. All right, so basically here's how it works. Here's how it works. I choose a well-known song lyric, and I spit it into, well, I don't spit it in, I type it into Google Translate, and then I translate it back and forth through about usually 15 to 20 different languages, then back to English. Whatever Google spits out, yeah, she does spit out the answer. I don't spit it in, but Google spits it out. Whatever she spits out, I play to you guys now, and you guys have to guess what the original lyrics that I wrote out were. I think today's lyrics, I've got the translation in front of me now. Today's lyrics, I think most people will get this one. I think that most people will be, well, I think everyone is familiar with this song, but I think a lot of the concept of these lyrics has lasted this translation. I think that people will get this. I'm not going to give any more hints than that. So Google, if you will, can we start up the translation process protocol, please?
Initiating translation process protocol. 22% complete. 50% complete. 77% complete. 100% complete. Translation result is: she's a beautiful bride. What a bride you are. Sins, shame and humiliation turned into prostitution.
All right, there you go. Those are your lyrics to decode for this week. Those, again, not by Google but by me, is: she is a beautiful bride. What a bride you are. Sins, shame and humiliation turned into prostitution. So I think I think a lot of people will get this one. I don't know. In my mind, people will get this one very quickly. Please do not spoil the Lost in Translation. Some people were just posting the answers in the Discord, which is the group chat for this podcast. Please don't do that. People are trying to guess the answers, so please don't ruin it for everyone if you get it. Just send a message to me or call in your answer to the show and leave a voice message. That is the preferred modus operandi for playing this game. Again, don't spoil it for people. Don't give cryptic hints. Just let people figure it out for themselves. If they don't know, that's their problem. You figured it out. So leave a message, 1-800-438-353, and hopefully we get a correct answer, which will be revealed next week on the show. Good luck with it, guys. Last week on the show, we launched a hit new segment. It is a segment I've wanted to launch for a long while, and it received overwhelmingly positive reviews from a lot of you, so I'm very, very happy to bring this one back. And this is a segment called this. It's Scissors, Paper, Rock, Honesty Edition! This game is Scissors, Paper, Rock, Honesty Edition. And, the way this game works is pretty simple because I realized that scissors, paper, rock, or rock, paper, scissors, or paper, scissors, rock, however the fuck you want to say it. Lots of people were complaining about this. I posted a clip of last week on Instagram. Go check it out, radio.mike. Lots of people were complaining, oh, it's rock, paper, scissors. Oh, it's paper, scissors, rock. Oh, I'm an idiot. It's scissors, paper, rock. Don't care what you say. Whatever. Anyway. I'm getting off topic. The game works like this. Scissors, Paper, Rock is a very visual game. You cannot play Scissors, Paper, Rock over the phone. Unless you play Honesty Edition, the edition of Scissors, Paper, Rock in which every person playing just needs to tell the truth. Last week, as I said, I played with Radio Cass, who graciously lost. She lost very graciously. I went paper. She went scissors. And after she said that she went scissors, I changed my answer to rock. I then asked, do you believe me? And she said yes, stupidly to be honest. Clearly she didn't know the sport. And I ended up winning. I am currently the reigning champ. And I guess the goal of this game really is not to win at scissors, paper, rock, but more so to actually call someone out on their lie. I have a new challenger today, Radio James. Welcome to the radio family, Radio James. A lot of people did say they would like to take me on in this game, so depending on how today goes, you could be the next competitor. And Radio James just wrote in saying, hey mate, I'd love to play you in Scissors, Paper, Rock, Honesty Edition. Here's my number. And Radio James joins me on the line right now. Radio James,
I'm here.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for volunteering to be the next participant in Scissors, Paper, Rock, Honesty Edition, mate.
Nah, thanks for having me.
And I'm assuming you heard the pod last week where Cass made the debut of this game.
Yeah, I heard it.
What did you make of her performance in the game? Because obviously I faked her out and I lied about what I went, which is part of the game. It's a legitimate tactic of Scissors, Paper, Rock, Honesty Edition. What did you think of that? And what's your tactic today? What are you thinking of doing today?
Look, I saw her performance. It was a bit of a rookie performance, if I'm going to be honest. I have a tactic.
Yep.
So I don't know if I should tell you or if I should just let it happen, but...
Okay, well, why don't you let it happen, and afterwards you can explain whatever you did, because I can't see you, obviously. That's part of the game. It's a blind rock-off.
Perfect.
All right, man. Well, let's get ready. Are your hands warmed up? I'm just doing some finger exercises.
I've been stretching.
Yeah, great. Awesome, man. All right. Well, you know how it works. I say scissors, paper, rock. We show our thing, and then we say. All right.
Yeah, and you'll go first. You'll go first, right?
Sure. Okay, I can go first. Yeah, that's fine. Are you ready?
I'm ready to go.
All right, here we go, man. Scissors, paper, rock.
All right, what have you got?
I've gone paper.
Man, I've gone scissors.
Oh, guess what? I actually went scissors. I've lied.
You lied? Oh, man, I didn't see this coming.
I went scissors, so we've drawn.
What happens now?
Well, I reckon you've just got to come back next week.
All right.
Is that good with you? Well, we've tied. We have
Yeah.
to. I mean,
I think I'm cool with that, yeah.
yeah, right.
That's
Well,
the only fair way to do it.
all right. It's the first ever of one of two matches played. It's the first ever tie. We've both ended up going scissors in Scissors Paper Rock Honesty Edition. Radio James is coming back next week to challenge me again because obviously there's no winner. Radio James, I'm looking forward to speaking to you next week.
Yeah, I guess I'll see. I'll talk to you then.
And I won't go scissors next week. Wink.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely won't go scissors either.
All right, well, that's some good insight. Oh, sorry, man, I completely forgot. You said you had a strategy. What was your strategy? Because clearly it didn't work out too well for you.
My strategy was just to go first.
As in for me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
no, for you to go first. Sorry.
Yeah.
For you to go first.
I guess what's unfolding about this game is that you can lie at
Yeah.
any point. It's Honesty Edition. You can lie at any point. You just have to catch someone out in the lie, right?
Well, yeah, you totally blindsided me when you came back with the
Yeah.
the redo on the yeah.
So yeah, the thing about whoever, obviously James is coming back next week, but whoever plays after that, you can lie at any time. I guess you've got to call someone out on their lie. So James, that's just some food for thought for next week. Thanks again for playing.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'll start training now, I guess.
One more quick update before we finish up today. Let us start up. Let's play the sound effect for this. It is the podcast Pokemon Card Trading Network, the PPCNT. No, I fucked it. The podcast Pokemon Card. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult anagram. Podcast Pokemon Card Trading Network, PPCTN, the PPCTN, the Pipkitten. This is the Pepkitten, and this is my mission to complete my Pokemon card collection. There were 4 cards from the original Pokemon card set that I didn't have. Then it turned out there are a bunch more that I didn't have. I've managed to recover a fair few of them, including the original Jolteon card and the original Aerodactyl card. We are still trying to get a few more of these original cards. It's currently on hold, and the reason it's on hold is because Radio Alex Sky, a very loyal listener of this show, who, by the way, I should point out, we've had him on the show before. He's a man of many skills. He has perfect pitch, which means he can recognize any note. He can transpose music. He's a musician. Most of his skills lie in music. I'm sure he has other skills. Anyway, I've gone off a bit. Who, by the way, is transposing the Release the Sound songs. I know I mentioned Ghost in my room earlier. He's transposing the songs into different versions of them. For example, he's done a big band version, like a jazzy swing kind of club version of Attached to String, our first single. Obviously instrumental only. Here's a bit of that. And I'll have a go at filling in the vocals as if I'm some Frank Sinatra style, middle-aged dude with a great swing jazz vocal voice who's performing in some fancy nightclub for rich people. I'll fill it in while you guys listen to it, just to give it a bit more texture, I suppose. It actually reminds me a lot of the Family Guy theme song. When you hear it, I think you'll hear it too. I'm gonna do this in one take. Whatever I get, I'm gonna put up, even if it's shit. I'm just gonna see what comes out. I'm gonna do a swing cover of this song. I had a lovely evening, I walked you to your car. The next thing I know, you're leaning in and we kiss. I never get this far, I hold you close the moment last I touch your skin. But I went to run my hand through your hair, baby, and I noticed you were attached to a string. Oh yeah, play it, Delilah. You were a puppet this whole time, attached to a string. A puppet, baby. You were a puppet. He's gone. He's actually gone on. He hasn't repeated the chorus there. I was getting really into it. He's gone into the bridge section there. But let's whoosh out of this sound effect. Hope you get the idea of it now. And we will go back to the normal podcast outside of this grab. And I guess if you're not familiar with the original song, which if you're a listener to this podcast, you really should be, but go and listen to Attach Two String, go and listen to the whole Release the Sounds album. It's great. But Radio Alex Sky, not only is he a man of many musical talents, he is also a man with a lot of Pokemon cards that I need. And he has agreed to trade me pretty much all the cards I need, including, as he figured out this week, an Articuno card, which was one of the late additions to the cards I needed for my collection. He is going to trade them all, but obviously that is currently on hold because I do not have access to my doubles. I don't want to trade any of the cards I already have because then I'm basically, taking one step forward and going 2 steps back. I need to go and get my doubles. They're at my parents' house. It's currently COVID-19 restrictions, as you know, so I can't just go and get them from my parents' house. But I swear to God, Alex, once this is all over, once lockdown's over, I'm going to my parents. I'm opening every single drawer, every single closet, everything there to find my doubles, find the cards you need, and we're doing the first official swap. You can donate any Pokemon card, doesn't have to be one of the ones I need. If you would like to send me a Pokemon card, address them to, or anything. Apparently it was Radio Cass who played in Scissors Paper Rock last week, sent me 3 how-to basic little egg merchandises that came to my work. You can send me anything, but preferably Pokemon cards. You can send them to Radio Mike, 257 Clarendon Street, South Melbourne, 3205. Or you can do what Radio Greg did a year ago, which is leave a bit of merch, like a Pokemon thing, underneath a chair in a church that was next door to my work. That's my work address. You could do that, and I went on a little treasure hunt after that. That was fun. You could do that as well. But I should say that, people aren't going out as much, at all here in Melbourne because of all these restrictions. So a lot of people, including me, sort of have, a bit more money that they would usually spend on things like, going to the movies, going bowling, not that I ever do that, doing escape rooms, which I always do, entertainment kind of things, going to a bar with friends, going to a restaurant, eating out, going to get drinks, those kinds of social activities that us humans do. And because people aren't doing that, a lot of us have found that we have a lot, and I mean a lot, of additional income, or I guess they call it disposable income, just because money that we would usually spend anyway that now is just sitting in our bank. So often I'm getting really caught out by, I'm bored, I'm going to go on the internet and just find something to buy, which is a terrible, terrible coping mechanism that I'm getting into. Especially, I went through this period where I was buying, books every week. I'd buy, 3 books a week. And I actually put a ban on myself at the start of this year because I was like, you have not finished any of these books. You've barely opened any of them. You can only buy another book when you have finished every single book in this house, which is going to be a long time, but I'm now trying to up my reading habits, as I've said. I'm trying to read 50 pages of the book I'm reading every day. And I have been reading along with other members, other listeners of this podcast, with this series called The Scythe, The Arc of a Scythe trilogy, which is really good. I'm finally up to the 3rd book, and I am about 500 out of 600 pages in. So I'm down to the last 100, which has been really great. Highly recommend that series. We've all been watching it together, which has been really fun. But with this disposable income, I ended up actually just looking up on Amazon Pokemon cards. Couldn't really find anything great. But then, and I think this might be one of the, I think this what I've done says so much about me, because I don't think there is anyone else in the world that would have done what I've done. I actually found out that there is a trading card game that has just been started from a Digimon-themed trading card game that has just started in Japan. Digimon, one of the early competitors, and probably I would say the main competitor to Pokemon. It not implying at all that it ever got to that point, but there were a lot of monster collecting things that came out around the time Pokemon was booming, and Pokemon cards and everything was selling so well. Digimon was probably the most successful. If anyone disagrees, correct me if I'm wrong. And as I've said on this podcast before, I am probably the biggest fan of that series, this children's anime series that I believe is much deeper and much, and honestly just amazing storytelling and great. But you don't have to get into it. I'm obsessed with it. It's the biggest blast of nostalgia in my life. So I actually decided to spend $55 American importing 3 decks of Digimon cards from Japan into Melbourne. They took about 4 weeks to arrive, and they arrived on the weekend. I unpacked them, and I gotta say, guys, they are awesome. If anyone would like to see a photo of the Digimon cards, I will send them all. They are great. It turns out they weren't like full decks, they were just booster packs. Each one contained probably like 30 cards, but there were a lot of like doubles cards. So it was like you got 5 of this guy, 5 of this guy, 4 of this guy who's less common, 3 of this one who's less common, then 1 really rare card. But I got 3 packs, all with a bunch of different cards. Really like them. Put them in the same folder as my Pokemon cards. They're in the back of the Pokemon cards folder. Maybe blasphemy, but I think it's just going to be a trading card display folder for me. And yeah, you can also, and also I have some some classic Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the back as well, including the Blue Eyes White Dragon and a bunch of cards I bought in Japan when I was there in 2017, specifically because I wanted to do an Instagram in Japan of me playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I'll link out to that Instagram. I'll post that Instagram. I'll repost it this week as well after this pod comes out so people can see it. So yeah, that's what I've done with my disposable income. Bought Digimon cards as opposed to Pokemon cards. But yeah, send me Pokemon cards anytime, anywhere. 1-3 cabs will get you there. Sorry guys, that was a bit of a random detour. Just send me Pokemon cards. Thank you so much, Alex Guy. I will be waiting to make this trade with you. All right, time for me to take a breath. That is about all we've got time for this week on 20th Century Boy. You can, as I said, you can support the show in many ways. I said it at the top, I won't say that here. Couple things to address here because a few people were asking me about it. Harry Potter and the Boys, the podcast. If you have been a long-term listener of the show, you will know that a segment last year on the show was me reading out my Harry Potter fan fiction, Harry Potter and the Boys, every week. And I know I've been promising the Harry Potter and the Boys podcast for a while. It's just been so busy. I do really want to do it, as I've said like so many times, and I hate to like drill it in. Obviously because I'm working on so many shows, and that's my living, that's my day-to-day living, so I can pay my rent, I can pay all my bills for my phone and my internet and this podcast and all of those kinds of things and my food and all of that kind of thing. And blow a lot of money on Digimon trading cards, but you know, we've all got to splurge sometimes. I'm doing a lot of that. Sometimes like time is really short. Again, like this show 20th Century Boy is my main thing that I put out. This is like the weekly update of Mike. This is my thing that I look forward to doing most, and you'll always get this at the least. Again, I'm always looking and thinking about ways that I can maximize my time or subsidize the time. And, you know, and that's a discussion and a thought for me moving forward. A lot of people were just asking about where the Harry Potter and the Boys podcast is. I do really want to do it. I know I've spoken about how I'm feeling quite bored and I'm feeling quite, you know, and people are like, well, if you're so bored, why don't you just do that? And that's something I really do want to start doing. I really do want to start using this next 6 weeks of isolation to actually get the wheels in motion, because a lot of the stuff for Harry Potter and the Boys is done. I really do want to get it out. And I have a few other ideas as well. Again, it's all just sort of floating around in my mind, and I apologize if anyone gets upset or annoyed that I'm saying that things are coming and they're not. Mainly because I remember, this is just a classic Mike sidestep, but Tom DeLonge, who is the former lead singer of Blink-182, is notorious for doing posts, and anyone who follows the band will know this. He's notorious for doing posts like, big things coming, massive things coming soon, and then they never come. So I don't want to be like that, as funny as I find it. I don't want to be like that. I do apologize again. I am working on a lot of stuff. Mike Plays Games with Friends is a series I'm really excited about. There's 2 episodes of that ready to go, but I just don't want to put 2 episodes out, and then people are just sort of wondering where the rest is and waiting. So I like to have at least 5 episodes for like a quote unquote season of something. So that's coming. Obviously that's on hold because of COVID. Mic Check, my comedy series, 3 out of 5 episodes are written. 2 out of 5 episodes are filmed, edited, and mastered and ready to release. Again, I just don't want to put them out like 2 now and then we can't film the rest until COVID's over. So again, I'm holding them. And I have this other idea that I really want to do, but I'm not sure if it's the right time to launch it during COVID. So there's a lot of stuff happening. I really appreciate you listening to this. And I promise that if you listen to this podcast, this is where you'll hear everything first. But I am going to make a concerted effort to try and get the ball rolling properly with Harry Potter and the Boys, because I do really want to make that happen. And I know how I want it to work. It's just a matter of not the time, but it's just like the motivation, because obviously like once I've worked 5 really long days on my proper job and done this podcast, which again is not a chore by any means, but it's like I get tired and I sometimes just want to lie down and, read a book and not really engage with making content. So I hope you all understand that, and I really appreciate people really want this. And please don't feel like this is me complaining or anything like that. I really want to make all this stuff happen, so please just bear with me. The other thing is you can go on my YouTube. I really want to pick up my YouTube content. I really want to just start doing pop culture analysis, pop culture discussion, because I think that that's something that I'm really good at. And in the meantime, you can check out Popped, a pop culture podcast, which is my other podcast, which does just that with one of my best friends, Alex Diakovsky. All of these things are like Radio Mike Productions. That's sort of what I do. I make stuff. And 20th Century Boy is the flagship show of Radio Mike Productions, but all this other stuff falls under that umbrella. So yeah, that was my little spiel that went for longer than I thought it would. Currently I am playing Pokemon Silver version as part of Mike Plays, my YouTube series. Go check that out. I'm playing it on an emulator, which means I can play it at 1,000 times the normal speed. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to put another episode of that up soon. So please go and subscribe on YouTube if you're into that kind of thing. Totally understand if you're not. I know people will get different things out of different content that I do. That's about all we got time for, guys. Leave a review. Tell your friends. Go and check out some of the other stuff I do, even radio.mike on Instagram. It's Radio Mike on Twitter. I do some funny tweets. I try to do funny Instagrams. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Again, I appreciate all the support I get, and I couldn't make this show without people like you listening and contributing, and that's the part I love so much about this show. The radio family is the best community in any podcast, and I can't wait for one of you to win this thing. All right. That's all from me. My name has been Radio Mike. Don't block the MDF ever under any circumstances. Michael is a very kind young man, and some of your older staff could learn a lot from him. Were there any from this episode that I could... doesn't matter. My name is Radio Mike. This has been The Inside of My Mind. Catch you later. Goodbye. My name is Radio Mike. I've already said that. Goodbye. Fade the outro music up quick, because this is becoming quite a farce.